Went all in, play my cards right. Up the ante, won blackjack all night. Roll the dice, let it ride. Water the odds, I got snake eyes.
Entrepreneur Perspectives is produced by Quiet Loud Studios, a production company and content network. Learn more at quietloudstudios.com.
All right, Chip, how you doing?
Good morning, Mitch. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Yeah. So how's business going?
Hey, it's the insurance business, man. Every day's a challenge.
Yep. Amen.
2026 has been challenging with rate increases, tighter underwriting guidelines,
Yep.
but it's picked up here lately. So I'm sure every industry's the same. So I can't complain too much.
It really is. And on the life side, it's kind of ironic, but yeah, the companies seem to be doing more and more underwriting. And, I always say, I understand on the commercial property and casualty or on the homeowner stuff, material costs have gone up. And so they've had to adjust their rates because, if they have to repair a house, those costs are gone up. I get it. But mortality has not gone down. So why the life companies are equally as tight, they are just doing more and more underwriting. And, it's just tough to get cases through. So that's kind of our challenge. So did you have a dog in the hunt on the NFL draft last night?
Man, I didn't get to catch it. I was playing in my old man recreation basketball league last night. So
Yep.
we kind of had it going on, and I saw where the Panthers, I'm a Panther guy, so kind of curious what they did, and I like that they got an offensive lineman. I'm a big believer if, you can never have too many big guys like that and add depth there, especially if there's no one else that's like, oh, okay, that really sticks out. So I always big believer, man, just when in doubt, go offensive lineman if that's your best.
I'm a big Steeler fan, so I watched it until pick 21 was where the Steelers were. And they also picked a big offensive lineman, so they're trying to get their line kind of shored up as well. So, yeah, it was interesting. Of course, we're Steeler fans, so just to watch where they had the draft, Adam and I had spent a lot of time down in there because that's right next to the stadium. And so, we kind of identified some places that we'd been and stuff in there, so...
Well, it looked like a great crowd. I saw it. I mean, I saw the crowd when they were getting ready to draft, but did they go crazy? Were they happy with the pick, or did they boo, or what did they do?
Yeah, so the Steelers is kind of funny because I guess they're the host team. They said they had 300,000 people down in there.
Whew.
And it went way back. Some of the people, I don't even know how they could even see anything. I could hear it, I guess, but looked like a big party. But yeah, the Steelers, so when the Steeler pick came up, they played the Renegade, which is the big stadium song they play. So they played Renegade, and then they had a bunch of old Steelers out there, Terry Bradshaw and Mel Blount and all those guys from the 70s. And so it was pretty cool. And then they went offensive lineman. But yeah, I think they did. Because they lost the left guard. I think he went to the Cardinals. And then they've got another guy that they're still hadn't signed yet, so they're worried about him leaving. So they got some linemen, and that was a big problem for them. And particularly in the playoff game last year, they just got bull rushed the whole game. They just, people were at Rodgers' feet the whole time.
Well, is Rodgers going to be your quarterback next year?
I don't know. I'm a little annoyed. What I had heard was that he was going to make a decision before the draft, so that if they wanted to go quarterback, they could have drafted a quarterback. And then, of course, he doesn't tell them. So he's playing his little game, wait until June to let him know if he's going to play. But I think they should have made the decision for him. I think they should have said, hey, we need to know by the draft, and if you don't tell us, then we're going to move on. But I guess they still want him, and he can still throw. He just can't move,
No, he can't move, and then he does all the other antics as well, right? Like this kind of stuff right here, like just kind of, not putting a deadline on stuff. I don't know. He's frustrating. He's a Hall of Famer, but man, he'd be frustrating to be his teammate or working in the organization. Like, why does this guy get treated differently?
That's right. And I agree with that. And, at some point, the Steelers are so obsessed with not having a losing record that, at some point, you look at New England. My son and I were talking about this the other day, but, New England went 4-13, and then they got Drake May.
Yeah.
So at some point, you either got to play the guys you got on the team and either win and then you got your guy, or lose and then you get your guy. But you just can't be obsessed with being 9-8 or 10-7 every year. So
Totally agree. Totally agree. And then you can be the Panthers and just lose a lot and still not find your guy.
yeah, but I think they're going in the right direction. I think Bryce Young has really started to play well, and I think they got some things going.
Yeah, no, I do. I think they're heading the right direction, but I've still never seen a 5'10", 175-pound quarterback, win Super Bowl. So, but I'll pull for him, man. I wish him the best, but I think that's a challenge, right? So no different than me playing basketball. I'm a guard, so if I got to get down and somehow play center, I just don't have the size for it. I can do it at times, but that's just not going to be a game.
Well, I mean, in the fall, they were talking about Kyler Murray from the Cardinals, and they let him go. The Cardinals let him go. And then Adam was saying, should we sign Kyler Murray? And I said, not unless he grows a foot over the next 4 months, because he's too little. I mean, he's just too short and athletic.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing about Kyler Murray compared to Bryce, though, is that, yes, height-wise is about the same, but he's at least got some thickness and a little more athleticism than Bryce. But I do think Bryce is a better, IQ football player, target, can drop the ball in there. He's got to have the time and the lanes to be able to see what he's throwing to. But We'll see. I'm definitely pulling for him, but I don't know. I feel like deep down, it's like, I just don't know how far you can go with a small quarterback.
That's it. Yep. So tell me, I guess you played sports in high school. Were you from Statesville? Where were you from?
Grew up in Statesville, and my dad was a big gearhead, NASCAR junkie. So spending time with my dad, we went go-kart racing, and I did that, but I was just never more of I wasn't the mechanic type. Like, I wasn't a gearhead. Like, I enjoyed driving and racing, but then I was more of a stick and ball guy. So I played football and basketball through high school, had a couple small college opportunities to go, but didn't go that route. Ended up going to UNC Charlotte for a lot of years. Had a lot of regrets not going to play, college sports. But, in hindsight, it was all a blessing. I met my wife there, made some good connections, got introduced got me in the NASCAR industry where I actually became a pit crew guy. So, I got to be an athlete on pit road and carry tires for almost 20 years. I did 19 years jumping over a wall. And then that led to, I got to get out. I can't keep doing this forever and traveling. And so, hey, what else can I do? So I went the insurance route midway. But yeah, that's kind of where I've gotten.
What drivers did you?
So I started off at Roush Racing. I was there for 7 years. I worked with, my first driver was Chad Little, the old John Deere car. Yep. Then I did a 1-year stint Kevin LePage, and then I went to the 99 car. It was Jeff Burton, the Sitco car, the blue and white. We had some pretty successful years there, and then Carl Edwards came in for a short stint, and I had an opportunity to leave, so I went to Ganassi. And when I was at Ganassi, I worked for, I had Casey Mears 1 year, and then Juan Pablo Montoya.
Wow.
Was there for like 7 years. I was with Montoya for majority. Of course, everybody's like, oh, so you were on the team that hit the jet dryer at Daytona. I was like, yep, we were part of that team.
There you go.
Also part of the team. I lost 2 back-to-back Brickyard 400s that, man, we had in the bag. And it was, they always say, I mean, I didn't get to victory lane often, but you definitely remember the chances you had to win. Like, they slipped through the cracks, and the 2 Brickyard 400s were definitely back-to-back years. Like, they'll live with me till my dying days, probably.
That's cool. That is so cool. So tell me, how did you get into it?
So, like I said, my dad was a gearhead and a NASCAR junkie. He was an architect full time. It was somewhere around 87 or 88. He was doing a renovation or building a new project. It was a nursing home up in like the Greensboro area. Just so happened to be Steve Mill's father-in-law. Steve Mill was a well-known crew chief back in the 80s. He had just gotten hired, Steve had, to the crew chief and team manager for Jack Roush's new team with Mark Martin. So he got talking to my dad, and he was like, look, I know you got your full-time job, but if you want to come, on the weekends and help set up pits and do things like that, you're welcome to. So there were a handful of races like Rockingham, North Wilkesboro, Atlanta, all the tracks that are in driving distance of Statesville. And so me and my dad would go, and he would help set up pits. And there for a number of years, I would just stand outside, stand outside the fence until the race started. And then my dad would come, and we would go up in the stands and watch the race together. Real cool story though was 1980. I was only like 12 years old, and you're supposed to be, I guess you're supposed to be 16 to legally be in the pits. But I think the guy felt bad for me standing outside waiting on my dad, so he finally just like let me in. And that day, I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, we're in here. Can we just stay for the whole race?" Like, I guess. He's like, "But if they kick us out, you got to go." I was like, "All right." Well, nobody ever said anything. I just kind of sat in the back. That ended up being Mark Martin and Jack Roush's
Oh,
first win in the Cup Series. So I actually got to go to Victory Lane as a 12-year-old kid
oh, wow.
hanging out. Kind of got connections that way. And then, like I said, when I went off to college, my dad kept doing it, but I didn't. But I think must have been 1997. I still knew a lot of the guys. They were going to a Christmas party. My dad was like, "Hey, why don't you come to the Christmas party with us?" So I went. I got talking to one of the guys there. He was going to be Skip Eiler. He was going to be the crew chief for Chad Little. He's like, "Hey, why don't you do what your dad does? Just come and help set up pits and do that." And I was like, "All right, cool." Well, about 6 months later, I was actually jumping over the wall carrying tires for the first time in 1998.
Wow.
Skip and Jeff Hammond gave me the opportunity. They were kind of like, "Hey, we're trying to, get away from our shop mechanics, going over the wall and more athletic guys and that kind of stuff. And feel like you're, been kind of messing around with the pit stop car. Why don't you give it a shot?" So, yeah, I timed that perfectly because a lot of teams, they were getting more athletic guys, but they had not gone the D1 route like they're going now. So, like, I was kind of at the frontier of that. And then that was 1998. And that was probably about 2003 or 4 is when we really started. Like, when I got to Ganassi in 2005, like, we had some guys from Wake Forest or Ryan and a bunch of guys that played football and baseball, and they were just going to specialize primarily on race car. But by that point, I had 9-10 years experience doing it. So even though they might have been a little bigger, faster, stronger, I had the experience of doing it. So I was able to hold out till 2016. Started in 98 and finished up 2016.
Well, your conditioning, I know that being in shape for that is a physical job, I would think. So did you do anything special as far as staying in shape, or just the job kind of kept you in shape?
The job kind of kept you in shape. I mean, obviously not a ton of running involved, but just, good core strength. And they're long days, so a lot of times it was just mental focus too. It's a lot like a field goal kicker. I mean, obviously, we got 12 to 13 seconds back in the day when we had to hit 5 lug nuts. So, but you would sit there, you might go 25, 30 minutes watching a green flag run, not pitting a car. And all of a sudden the caution comes out, and like mentally it's like, all right, how do I get focused and run out there and execute? So I always compared it to being a field goal kicker. Field goal kicker stands on the sideline, kind of keeps himself, busy. But I mean, you can only sit there and swing your legs so much and practice so many field goals. Try to mentally prepare yourself so when the team puts you in position, you're ready to go out there and execute. So, but physically, you have to be pretty strong. I mean, those tires were 70 pounds and you got cars flying all around you. So you have to be, pretty agile. And I don't know. I love doing it though. It was fun. I mean, very, got to stay competitive for a long time.
That's good. And so you were married when you were doing some of this, right?
I did, yeah. Me and Mackenzie, we met in college. Actually, 98, I had just finished my first season. I guess I was a senior, getting ready to go to my 5th year because I did change majors several times. But yeah, we were in college, and I just finished my first NASCAR season. And I met her at a party, and it was right as the off season started. So it was like in November of 98. So I was telling her, I was like, "Oh, I do this, do that." We got pretty close. And then come February, all of a sudden I was gone every weekend.
Yep.
So I think she was kind of surprised because we'd gotten used to spending a lot of time together. But then all of a sudden I was gone every weekend. And then we ended up getting married in 2003. I better get that right. Yeah, January of 2003. Of course, she always gives me a hard time because we had to have a January wedding because, we couldn't do it during the race season, which was basically February. And it's like one of those deals, too, back in the day because it was so competitive. I mean, you just did not want to take a weekend off, whether that was for a wedding or an injury or anything else, because somebody else jumps in there and
Yep.
did the job just good or better. It's like, maybe you're expendable. So I never wanted to give anybody that opportunity. And that was probably one of my most prideful things as far as going over the wall is when I started in 1998. July at Pocono, I never, ever missed a single race my whole time. So when I finished in November of 2016, I think I'd done 730 straight cup races.
Wow. That's crazy.
Nothing that's going to get me in the Hall of Fame or anything like that. But
that's a cool story, though.
It is, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have done it for 15, 20, even 25 years that have been doing it a long time. But, a lot of them have missed a race due to injury or wedding or death in the family or whatever it was. And, I was blessed I think the closest I came, I turned my ankle one week and I told the pit coach, I was like, hey, just give me one pit stop. If I can't do it, then we got to back up. He was like, all right, I'm going to give you one pit stop. And man, I just adrenaline rush and made it through that first pit stop. Good. I was like, you ain't pulling me now. So I stayed in, and I think the next week it hurt even worse. Just it had swollen up, and I was like, if I made it one week, I'm not giving them a chance the second week to pull me. So, but yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, we got married in 2003, and we got two beautiful daughters, and they're excelling at life. And man, we're just really blessed right now.
That's a big commitment on your wife's part too, because like you said, you're gone every weekend during the race season. It really is what you focus on every weekend so that's a huge commitment on her part too.
Yeah. She, definitely held the fort down with the kids. Luckily I was usually gone just Sunday only. I didn't have to really travel Thursday to Sunday. We would fly out Sunday morning and be back Sunday, but still there were sometimes I did have to fly out Saturday. And I mean, she would have to run the kids to soccer games and take them to church and do all that by herself. So I know that was real tough, but hey, you do what you got to do. And, I always say the first 10 years of pitting race cars, there's nothing else I'd have rather done. Like I loved it. But kind of once I hit 30, 31 years old, like in that time frame, I mean, our kids were, young, and I was starting to see I was missing out on stuff. So I started trying to plan my exit strategy. Unfortunately, it took about 8 or 9 years to finally come to fruition. So, the first 10 years were, I would have not done it for free, but really treated it that way. Like I love my job. And then the last 9 years, it was kind of like, okay, this is just another job. It's a means to an end. And we got to figure stuff out because, we didn't want to live that lifestyle where I was going every weekend.
I know you're paying your wife back now because, I come in there every Wednesday trying to bug you for business. And a lot of times you're doing things with your kids at the school or whatever. So sounds like you guys are a good team. So
we really are. And she, same thing. Just she's a hairdresser. She gets to set her own schedule. So she's, real busy Monday and Wednesday and Friday mornings. And she tries to take Tuesday, Thursday off. So, anything I can help her out with the kids on Monday, Wednesday, owning my own agency. I've got 2 wonderful employees. So I'm able to kind of come and go as I please or as I need. And, we're just, I don't know. I feel bad when I, show up to soccer games or things like that, and I see, kids that don't have their, parents there or stuff. But I mean, not everybody has the ability to show up to a 4 o'clock, soccer game because their kids got, what I'd say a real job or a corporate job that keeps them there till 5 or 5:30. So we definitely know how blessed we are and try to be a good team.
My son played a little, we've talked about it, but he played, Division III football. And I love that level of football because all the guys are playing because they love football, and they're not making any money. They're not going to the pros. It's just a bunch of guys that love to play football. And, one thing I didn't miss any games. Like I just said, I am not missing a game. Yeah. There were a couple of away games during COVID that they wouldn't let you come. You couldn't come. But I watched those on TV, I wasn't going to miss any games. I drove all the way up to Pennsylvania one day to see a game and, drove up to Richmond because, you know it's going to come to an end at some point. And so, you don't want to miss those things.
No, for sure. I mean, it's funny. Oldest daughter, she's down at Clemson now, which is about 2.5 hours. And she's playing like some intramural soccer and stuff. And I mean, there's jokingly, but seriously, there's been times I'm like, hey, I'm going to come down and hang out with you and then just watch your game just to see it one more time.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And, Adam, he had a year left, because of the COVID year. They didn't count that year as eligibility. And, I keep telling him, I joke around, he's 26 now and he's been working 3 or 4 years. But I keep telling him, hey, man, you still got 1 year of eligibility left. And he's like, there's no way I'm going to go back and play football, So, yeah, those are good times. And it's good to hear you guys get to do that.
Yeah. No, we do. And then my youngest daughter, she's big into musical theater. We just found out that she got nominated for Bloomie Awards, which is a big high school recognition. So she'll go to a workshop next week and do all that. And then she'll find out if she gets in to the final six finalists. And then if she somehow were to win it out of Charlotte, she would get to go to New York and do a workshop. And who knows what kind of connection come about that. So, we're rooting for both our kids and, just as long as they stay on the right path, which they're doing.
I got to meet your daughters at a Christmas party that you invited me to. And I know your younger daughter's loaded with personality. So that sounds like she's in the right thing, so.
Yeah, she is. And you probably wouldn't hardly recognize either one of them now. They both have changed and grown up so much. But yeah, they still, Gatsby, my oldest, she's decided she's going into sports media and communications, and like she has really come out of her shell. Like she's Miss Personality and Social Butterfly, and like she went off to college and just completely spread her wings. And then Quimby, like you said, she was full of personality 5 years ago, and she's still the same way. She's just she's firecracker.
That's great.
She still says, makes us laugh. We're like, where did that come from?
Yep, that's funny.
That's where we get at our stage in life, man. You just try to keep paying bills and keep plugging away and pull for your kids and encourage them and be their biggest cheerleaders.
Yep. So tell me how you made the transition. I guess, why insurance? What made you think about that and how you made that transition?
Yeah. I don't know. My cousin, he had worked for Nationwide for a number of years, and he had probably told me back in 2008 or 9, he's like, man, if you want to get out of NASCAR, you should come do insurance. You got a lot of connections. You got the personality for it. Like, I think you'd do good at it. And I didn't think much about it. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. The insurance doesn't sound very exciting. Well, then 2013, I'd been at Ganassi for 9 years, and it was time for them to make a change, time for me to make a change, and just kind of woke up and I was like, man, I'm 36 years old and I still don't really have my exit strategy. So I reached out to him. He put me in touch with somebody at Nationwide. I had some, talks with them. I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of intriguing. And I was like, all right, I need to do this. Went and got my insurance license. Well, I started on my insurance license. And while I was sitting at the kitchen table studying the material, an old friend of mine gave me a call from Farm Bureau. And he's like, hey, Chip. He's like, man, I just became an agency manager here in Harrisburg and kind of new. And for some reason, God put your name on my heart. And, I just didn't know if you were interested in getting in the insurance business or not. And I was like, Sean, this is crazy, dude. Like, I'm literally sitting at my kitchen table right now with insurance material in front of me. He's like, oh, wow. Well, you're not doing racing? I was like, well, I'm probably going to pick cars for a couple more years until I can make enough money. But I think I might go the insurance route. I'm talking to Nationwide. He's like, well, before you do that, let's go have lunch. And man, we had lunch. I passed a few of their tests, and he's like, once you get fully licensed, I had to get, all 5 licenses, life, health, everything.
Right.
And he was like, that we can contract you. So, and next 2 months, I got everything taken care of. In February of 2014, contracted with Farm Bureau and kept pitting race cars on the weekend. Having a lot of success with them. I loved it. They were great training. Sent me to Raleigh, Jackson, Mississippi. But towards the end of the year, I met a guy that owned an independent agency, and same thing, like a testament to God. Like, I'm at a QT station, not even to get gas, but just to pick up a cord for my phone, because my phone was going dead that morning. So I see this guy, like, he's over there pumping gas, and he's kind of looking at me, and I go over there. I'm like, hey, man, do we know each other? Like, he's like, nah, I thought you were somebody else. I thought you were Marty Smith. I was like, oh, man. I said, I actually work in NASCAR. I know Marty. He's a friend of mine. He's like, oh, I met him at coffee, but I thought you were Marty at first. I was like, okay. I said, well, man, I just got in the insurance business. If I can
I can see that.
I said, here's my business card if I can help you. And he started laughing. He goes, man, I've got an independent agency in Mooresville. He's like, all you Farm Bureau guys, the business you can't write, I write. He said, you'll be calling me more than I'll call you. I was like, all right, we'll see. So over the next couple months, man, sure enough, he was right. There was some business I couldn't write at Farm Bureau, and I sent it to him, and he could write it. And then next thing you know, we were at church. He invited us to go to this church that he was attending, and we started going for a couple months. And then he pulled me outside to the lobby one day after church. He was like, hey, man, I'm 67 years old. I've tried to sell this agency once, and I couldn't get it done. And he's like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm ready to sell. He's like, is there any way you would be interested? And I was sitting there, I was like, man, pretty happy at Farm Bureau, but you know what? If I'm going to make a move, now might be the time. And it just feels like, God was opening these doors. And so I was like, hey, let's have a conversation. And over the next 6 months, ended up buying his agency here in Mooresville and have not looked back.
That's good. Yep. And I know you got a good staff in there working for you too. I know the ladies in there, and you got some super people.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, there's Farm Bureau is a great insurance company, and there's a lot of great agents there. And I'm sure if I would have stayed in place, I would still be successful. But it is a little bit corporate where, every month it's like, hey, what have you done for me? How many apps have you wrote? How many have you done this? How many have you done that? And my own independent business here, it's like, hey, we're going to hustle. We're trying to always grow our business. But you know what? If family needs to be first for a month or two and we're just not writing that much business, then, I can set business to the sideline and just, live off our renewals and residuals and things like that until, all right, now it's time to get back on the card and go. And I don't have somebody, standing over me being like, hey, man, last month you wrote 25 auto policies. This month you only wrote 10. What's going on? What's wrong with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those Farm Bureau and State Farm, they're really good training grounds for agents because they really do teach you how to prospect, how to talk to people. Of course, you probably are already good at talking to people anyway, but they're really good. And then, you get out into the brokerage world where you're able to write different companies and really get the right fit for your customer, and it's really not, I'm not, like I like to say, I'm not married to any one company. So I'm able to say, let me listen to you, and then I can put you with the right company. But yeah, those career shops are really, really good training grounds for agents for sure.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it literally is a testament that, all the doors open to put me where I'm at. Like, I literally 2012, 13, and 14, I was kind of like, man, like, I'm in my late 30s. I've had a great career in NASCAR. I don't want to keep doing this. In fact, even if I do stop pitting race cars, like, I'm not going to make the same amount of money, but man, my kids are in the most expensive time of their life. How are we going to make this work? And like I said, the doors where, all right, I had to take a step back financially for a little bit. I didn't get to invest in retirement and things like that. But you know what? We didn't really sacrifice our lifestyle too much. And, now, my agency's paid off, business is successful, back to, funding my retirement. Like, all right, now there's a plan and there's a goal. It's like, all right, I'm almost 50 years old now and I made it through my 40s and kids are doing great. And like, all right, hopefully get to 65 or 70 and retire and still be able to have the freedom and flexibility that I have now as well. So, me and my wife want to take off for 2 days, we can run up to Asheville and just have some time together.
That's awesome. Yeah, whenever I got into the sales side, I was on the property and casualty side for about 10 years in a home office, and then decided to get out on the sales side. And I was like you, I didn't even have my license. The guy that hired me, my first job in sales, I didn't even have my license. The first week that I worked at the company, I had to go get my life license, and then I got my long-term care license. I mean, you talk about starting from ground zero. And I had been through a divorce, so I was paying child support. And there were months, when you first start in sales, you're only eating what you kill. I mean, and so if I didn't go out and kill something, it was a problem, And I mean, I'm telling you, you talk about being blessed, and I really like to hear your stories. But I would have weeks where I go, okay, I owe her $1,400 in 4 days, and I don't have it. Like, I mean, literally, I would say I don't have it. And then I'm not lying to you, like more than 20 times, I would go to the mailbox and there'd be a check on a case that I'd forgotten about that I'd written. And it never was too much, but it was always just enough that I could make that payment. And I'm telling you, it was amazing. And I think part of it was because I think you know me. I mean, I'm out here hustling all the time. I think to some degree you make your own luck, but I also think there were some real blessings in there too that I had some help. So I hear what you're saying, and you've kind of been through that experience as well.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I think, more people in life, if you step back and think about like the past, like things like that happen, and it's not just coincidence. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason that it happened, and that's an amazing story.
Yep.
That's cool.
Well, I think, believe it or not, we've been talking for 41 minutes. It just goes by so fast. But I think this is a good place to stop. And I really appreciate you, taking the time to do this. And then what we'll do is we'll edit this for you and give you a copy. I think you're going to like it. I mean, it really turns out amazing when we get the editing done. So
awesome, man. Well, hey, you've been a blessing too, man. I appreciate all you do for me and our agency and stopping by. Hey, I don't get to see you more often, but I know when I need something from the life side of things, you're always there for me. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for listening to Entrepreneur Perspectives. This show is produced by Quiet Loud Studios, where we create podcast writing and original media. Learn more at quietloudstudios.com.